106.9 The X now presents Straight Talk, a community access program dealing with a wide variety of issues and concerns designed to entertain and inform. If you would like to suggest a topic or wish to appear on the show, please call us at 519-453-2810, extension 510. And now, Straight Talk on 106.9 The X.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Straight Talk on 106.9 The X FM in London, Ontario. We're here at fabulous Fanshawe College, and we're going to be finding out today about the London Tool Library, what it is and how you can join it. And we have with us today the project director of the London Tool Library, Jim Hamell. And Jim, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Bill. I'm glad to be here.
The last time you were here, what organization were you with?
Yes, I was actually the coordinator of the now defunct Zeitgeist movement here in London. It still exists as a global movement, but the London chapter itself is dissolved. So,
and just curiosity's sake, now we mentioned the word, what was the Zeitgeist movement in London?
Ultimately, we were talking about things like sustainability and actually how to make that happen in a very real and practical way. This next step that I'm doing now actually has a lot to do with that, and actually how to take that level of sustainability and actually make it into a practical service that people can access and can actually help in a lot of things, especially more monetarily as well as ecologically. So I think it's going to be a really good project.
So it has a lot of zeitgeist to it.
It does. It's not something that we're focused on.
Yeah, but I would like to ask you, is the London Tool Library what it sounds like? Like a library, you can take out a tool and borrow it?
Yes, if you've ever used a library, you already know exactly how this will function. It's just to expand it to more things. There have even been people like in Toronto who have expanded it to things like kitchenware and stuff like that as well.
So there's a Toronto Tool Library as well?
There is, yeah. They're my
Are there
inspiration.
other cities too?
All over the place. All over North America. They basically started in, I believe it was 1977 was the first one, and it has expanded to now there's hundreds worldwide, so...
And I would imagine if it's a tool library, you need a location for the library to be. Is it, in your garage at the moment, or have you found another space?
No, thankfully, we have actually got in touch. Actually, they got in touch with myself with a group called Unlondon, which is a very interesting organization, a not-for-profit that actually does a bunch of services for the community, including there is a makerspace. Where there's 3D printers and other small manufacturing tools and a lab to basically work with them in.
Where's that?
That is 999 Collip Circle in Convergence Center on the Western University campus.
I know where that is, because as the town crier, I helped to open that research park.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's the research park at Windermere and Western Road.
That sounds,
area.
Yep, that's correct.
And Collip was it was Banting Best in Collip. So it was another
great legacy, yeah.
Yeah, one of the researchers there. And so there are a lot of neat buildings in there. And I can remember as a kid growing up, my father taught at Western, and that was all swampland. But now it's all buildings.
Yes.
And so in those nice modern buildings is a space where you can make use of these pieces of equipment.
Absolutely, yeah. Cutting edge stuff. It's really, really interesting, and we want to add to it as well. Right now, basically all I'm focusing on is the library, but if it works out, there's some other ideas. We want to get like a laser printer in there and some other stuff, yeah. CNC router, maybe.
So what kind of tools have you already got?
So far, we have we do have some stuff that was already part of the lab that we're going to start lending now through the tool library, as well as I've collected a bunch myself in the early part of basically the tool drive, and this is the continuation of that. So we are not a functional tool library as of yet, but we are hoping that it is up and running by March. So
of 2015.
That's right, yeah. Okay. So basically right now is a big call out for tool donations. So part of the reason that I'm here is to make sure people know where they can send those tools. If
I'm guessing $9.99 Call-Up Circle.
Unfortunately, no, that's not the best place. Right now, the best thing to do is to contact me directly. Okay. And then to make an appointment, just because it is a place where you need a electronic key to open it, and so I will have to be there. So it's best if you contact me, and then I can be there for when you're ready to drop off your tools.
But that's going to be the depository for the tools.
There, or if it's more convenient, we can sometimes make it to your location and pick up if there's a lot of tools or if there's big tools. Something like a bandsaw. You're probably going to want it picked up. So, but yeah, right now the best thing to do is to contact me and we'll make arrangements.
And you meaning Jim Hamell?
Jim Hamell, that's right.
And how do we contact Jim Hamell?
Best way would be email jim@unlondon.ca. You can also find a form on the website under the donate section. The website is londontoolllibrary.ca, simple to remember. And on the donate section, you can see where you can donate or contact myself, and as well as make a monetary donation to Unlondon as a whole.
And I would imagine there are some tools that it's good to own, like to have a hammer and a screwdriver, things like that. Yep. What kinds of stuff do typically people like to borrow from a library?
Well, we hope to have a large diversity of tools. If you want to see what we're aiming for, I think it'd probably be best to go to the Toronto Tool Library website and look at their inventory as kind of like a guiding wish list for our site. We still are in the very early stages yet, so obviously it's a community program. The reason why, it's a $50 a year program to be able to access this library, right? So to be able to keep those costs what they are, it needs to be a community-led project. So that means that the tools, because they are donated rather than purchased, completely reduce the cost of operations and allow people to have access to them at around $50 or so. Our inspiration, the Toronto...
Now, when you say $50, is that a per usage fee, or would that be your annual membership?
Yeah, that's the annual membership.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now I can see where not having to buy tools would be useful for people who don't have the money. How useful is it to have a truck or something to pick up the equipment, take it to another place, use it, and then bring it back? Or can you use it at the library?
Exactly. Because we are connected with the Unlabs, there is a full functioning workshop there. So for instance, if you're doing work on your home or whatnot, then you would take out, say, a circular saw or something like that. Whereas if you're trying to do a bigger project, we also have the facilities to be able to do that as well. So like if you wanted to, say, create, for instance, a 3D printer, we have the ability to do that. One of the beautiful things about 3D printers is you can actually print most of the parts on a 3D printer. So it's very good. And Unlabs has been around, I do believe, for about 6 years now. And they had discussed getting a tool library in there, and then when they saw that I was actually preparing to start one up, that's when they contacted me and partnered with me. And so now we're going to have that as an extra bonus to the entire Unlabs process already. Like I say, it is inspired by Toronto's tool library. At least for myself, the makerspace that they have at Unlabs has been there for a while. But they've done such a wonderful job in Toronto. Two gentlemen who have truly inspired me, Lawrence Alvarez and Ryan Diamond, who I met actually through the Zeitgeist movement. We had gone to Toronto and actually spent some time with them then, and then they went on to build the tool libraries, two of them, within an 18-month period. Amazing. One of them including a makerspace. And so it all kind of came full circle, right? So they already had a makerspace at Unlondon, heard that we were I was trying to start up a tool library, and contacted me, and next thing you know, we're partnered and we're going ahead with it. And they've absorbed a lot of the startup costs, which means that we can focus on that $50 administration fee, and then basically you have access to, I don't know, whatever tools we can get. The community, of course, being the bearer of that particular responsibility. So we're looking forward to getting some in.
Now, North Americans being who they are they willing to use a common area, common tools, or does everybody want to have their own stuff?
Well, that is the big thing. In our market economy, there is a huge amount of redundancy when it comes to things of little use. When you think about a hammer, you're going to spend about 15 minutes to 20 minutes using that for its entire life, and that's it. And then it just sits on a wall somewhere. There are a lot of resources that are put into that hammer. Steel comes from other parts in the world, the rubber for the handle, whatnot. And then it's all put together into that final form to basically be held hostage on your wall for the most part. So this allows it to be expanded out so that the community can actually have access to it and it can have its full, promised use. And it really does make a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense both from a financial aspect. The $50 is less than usually what it costs to rent anything at a tool rental place. And then it makes a lot of sense in that you don't have to maintain those tools as well. So we take care of maintaining and cleaning the tools, fixing anything that's wrong with them, whatnot. So all that's left for you is to pick it up, use it, and drop it off when you're done. And then, of course, environmentally, that's huge because you don't have the redundancy of product, right? You have a centralized place where you can go and get what you need when you need it. And like Lawrence Alvarez, and I really want to suggest this talk. It's actually, I put it right on the front page of the website. He does a wonderful TEDx talk talking about sharing communities and the entire philosophy behind that. And it's something that I do highly suggest that people listen to if they really want to kind of get the ethos of what we're trying to do here. And he basically said, it's kind of, okay. So he's basically saying that if you are to, you don't really need to have a saw. You need to cut two pieces of wood. You need to cut a piece of wood into two. You don't really need a drill. You need to put a hole in a wall. So when you're actually looking at what need means rather than want, there is a different answer than what most people are thinking, right?
Yeah, because they're usually thinking of Tim the Toolman Taylor
exactly.
with a perfect wall, and you spray paint the wall on top of the pieces of equipment so there's actually an outline of where the tool goes so that, you know if you're missing your tool, you have to fill that space that's on the wall or something like that.
Exactly. And the thing is that it isn't about the tool. It's about what you actually want out of the tool. So if you don't have to maintain a tool, if you don't have the storage space to keep a lot of tools or whatnot, you can actually have access to an entire library of tools for $50 a year. To a lot of people, it's going to be a no-brainer.
To me, this is the difference between wanting to build something and wanting to have a cool wall of tools to look at.
Exactly.
Because I'm sure a lot of people who have that cool wall of tools have never used them. And maybe their neighbors borrow them more often than they use them. It's the same thing as somebody who buys a gym membership and never goes to the gym,
right.
But they feel healthier just because they've got the membership.
That. Yeah. Exactly. So, if you have a project that's in mind, you can actually decide what tools that you require, come and pick them up for the short period, for the 7 days or however long. We'll have extended periods if your project's going to take longer. Go ahead and take the tool out, complete your project, and then return them when you're done. Then you don't have to maintain them. You don't have to do anything. It basically it simplifies the process and makes it a lot better for the environment.
So it seems to me you don't want to just have one set of tools. You want to have multiple so that many people can be working on projects at the same time.
That's right, yeah. We want to basically have a nice, diverse set of tools so that people can have access to what they need when they want, despite the project. We don't want to run out of things. So far, we have about somewhere in and around 100 tools that we've collected so far. Maybe even a little bit more than that. I haven't inventoried them all yet, but if we want to actually do what Toronto's doing, they have, between their two stores, they have over 3,000 tools. So this is definitely a call-out, but it does also show that the community does provide, when they do understand,
when you get some of these things donated, do you ever get together with other volunteers and try to guess what the tool does? They used this in 1836 for something.
This is a ringer washer we got here. No, I mean, thanks to the internet, you pretty well have access to all that information very quickly. This is the one thing, trying to keep things high-tech. Like, it's not just about having the tools either. It's about teaching people the tools, right? Mm-hmm. So above and beyond just having the tool library and have access, continuing the tradition of what Unlondon's already been doing with programs, teach-outs on things like Arduino and whatnot. We also want to have similar projects that are available so that people can come in who maybe they haven't had as much tool experience as they would like, so that we can actually do tool training and whatnot there. In Toronto, they call them their tool ninjas. We'd like to take the inspiration from what everybody's been doing and make sure that it's not just a place where you can get tools, but where you can also learn to use them.
And what's the definition? Really important. What's the definition for you of what is a tool? Are we just talking about woodworking and metalworking? Are we talking about clay pots? Are we talking about gardening?
Right. So many things are a tool. Basically anything that extends the capability of a human being, to put it about as simply as possible. So that gives a lot of opportunity for defining what a tool library is. For the most part, from what I've seen, the pieces that people are taking are mostly going to be, home maintenance, things like that, those kind of tools. But as far as I'm concerned, if you want to donate fishing rods, I mean, that can be useful. Not everybody fishes every day. Do you need to own and maintain a fishing rod when you can just pick it up, right? Gardening implements are amazing because they help with things like community gardens and whatnot. So they're a very big thing. I've heard of seed gardens. It's not something that, seed libraries. It's not something that we're going to implement immediately or potentially at all, but I thought that's a very cool idea. Kitchen libraries where they actually have things, kitchen implements that basically you can access when you want, but you don't need every day. Like, you might want a mixer because you're making some bread, but you're not going to make bread every day. So things like that. There's a lot of ideas that have really come out of this about, like, it's not to say that there shouldn't be a market for the things that you use on a regular basis, but do we really need ownership of things that we don't use on a regular basis? That's basically the premise. It creates a huge amount of redundancy, and then you have to get rid of them at the end of their life cycle. And at the end of the day, you end up with these huge landfills of things that, if they were actually implemented in a very efficient and intelligent way, could have serviced a lot more people, and could potentially change the world. Who knows what people will make out of this stuff, right? That's kind of been my key reason for getting into this, is that I actually believe that what we need to basically overcome all kinds of things, from global warming to debt crises to all these things, are actually going to come out of people's garages, right? Mm-hmm. And they're starting more and more the democratization of technology, things like 3D printers and whatnot, are giving people the chance to actually become part of these solutions, rather than just sitting back and passively waiting for them. So many Kickstarters have been started with people who have mocked stuff up in tool libraries like our own, or mock-up shops, or hacker spaces, or whatever you'd like to call them. and change the world. So I want to be part of that facilitation process of getting, it's not necessarily that I myself, am prepared to change the world, but it'd be nice to facilitate those who can, people who are much smarter than myself, to be able to do so. And I think that this is really a way to be able to do that.
So foreseeably in the future, some of the tools in your tool library will have been made by tools in the tool library and the people who borrow them.
That's true. In fact, it's already happened. We have a 3D printer in the Unlabs anyway that was actually printed from the 3D printer that we purchased. So
tell us the meaning of Unlabs and Unlondon.
Right. So this actually is not my forte. I'm actually very new to the group, but I have read their ethos, and ultimately what they are doing is looking at unconventional ways to serve the community. So the un portion comes from that. It comes from unconferences, I guess they did, which are basically unconventional ways to run conferences and whatnot so that people can get very different out-of-the-box ideas out of the way, like into the mainstream conversation. And so the executive director is Titus Ferguson, and he's the one who had contacted me for the tool library. And
what city does he operate out of?
Out of London.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, hence the name Unlondon. Mm-hmm. So the moniker basically harkens to that idea of unconventional ideas to basically bring about things that, services that may already exist in the community, but in a much better way. They do have a couple of spots. Again, there's the Unlabs, and then they also have 121 Studios, which is has to do with more media-related stuff like podcasting and photography and other things like that.
So what you're saying is there's a lot happening in London that's below the surface.
And none of these services cost very much. That's another thing, too. I do believe it's like $100 to get access to the 121 Studios. It's like $33 to get access to the Unlabs, right? And the reason why is because it's all nonprofit and community-led. So that allows for the ability to really lower the costs of everything. A lot of people don't understand that. I've been involved in the open source community, and there's a reason why products that are made open source are free or cheap. And that's because the community involvement in it and basically the collaborative effort that's put into it actually makes for a less expensive overall product, sometimes free. It's now moved into hardware. You can look at stuff like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and 3D printers like RepRap and other such things. Collaboration.
Now, we have to go back a step here because I've heard words I haven't heard before.
Okay.
Arduinos, you mentioned that twice so far in this interview.
Yeah.
What is that?
Arduino is basically an open source designed microcomputer. And or microcontroller is actually the better way to explain it. And basically what that is it allows you to make like robots and stuff like that out of a very inexpensive, generally they're around $30, little computer. Raspberry Pi is similar, but it's more based towards media.
So it's not a real Raspberry Pi.
No, it is not. It's Raspberry Pi spelled P-I.
Okay.
Like the number. Mm-hmm. And and so basically it is more media oriented. So you can put like media centers on it. You can run Linux off of it. You can turn them into media boxes like XBMC, which is another open source project. Works perfectly with a Raspberry Pi. The entire open source culture is in a lot of ways changing the world. In fact, some of the people who I would suggest that your listeners listen to if they want to start getting an idea of because even that word open source, it gets thrown around a lot, but people don't necessarily know what it means. I would say talk to or listen to somebody like Clay Shirky is someone who I've really enjoyed listening to. He talks about collaboration on a large scale. And also Jeremy Rifkin is probably one of my favorites as well. And he looks at open source energy patterns and basically how we use and share electricity the same way as we would like an internet, right? So basically every home, say, would be its own energy collector, and then it would share the electricity through the grid with every other home, and you wouldn't even need centralized places like like a coal plant or a nuclear plant at all. So just basically everybody producing electricity right from their own homes with things like solar and whatnot. You wouldn't even need the giant solar plants that they're planning, these multi-million-dollar solar plants.
So we're talking really off the grid.
That's right, and this all ties in together, right? It's all these ideas that have gotten me interested into this, because when you do decentralized things, when you are looking at the broader picture, there's actually, I like the way that Lawrence said it in the video. He said that collaboration works as well as competition, but it's infinitely kinder. And I thought that was fabulous.
Well, in the last minute of the show today, what should we tell our audience?
Look for us. We are going to be opening about March or so. Earlier, if we can get a good diverse tool collection in before then. But this is a community-led program, so we do require your assistance to be able to run this. So if you want to take a page from the Toronto Tool Library and what Toronto has done to help them, make London as well of as big of a name as what Toronto has done in the same market, contact me, jim@unlondon.ca. Also check out the website, londontoollibrary.ca.
All right. Well, we're talking with Jim Hamell here, and you can always reach us at the station, and we'll give you Jim's information as well. And I'm talking about Straight Talk right here at 106.9 The XFM. I'm Bill Paul. If you'd like to be on this show, give us a call at our radio library, 519-453-2810, extension 510, and we'll get you on the air as soon as we can. Jim, thanks very much for being here.
Not a problem.
And thanks for doing what you do.
And thank you.
I'm Bill Paul for Straight Talk.
You've been listening to Straight Talk on 106.9 The X. If you have a suggested topic or would like to appear on the show, please call us at 519-453-2810, extension 510.